is the old pre-algebra type graphing, and that's where you have a little chart that you make up, and x, one side is x, one side is y. Plug in numbers for x and y, and you get y. So let's just think of y is equal to 3x minus 2. Y is equal to 3x minus 2. Y has to be by itself. Now that's where you take your highlighter and you highlight that little cloud right there. In other words, y has to be by itself for you to do the first method of graphing, which is called the chart plot method. Chart plot says that you draw a chart, x on one side, y on the other, and you pick 5 points. 90% of the time, I'm going to pick these 5 points. Why am I going to pick those 5 points 90% of the time? Say again? They're the easiest. That's the number one. Okay, that's the number one reason. One is they're the easiest. What else? There's 3 or 4 reasons. That's the number one reason.
Is it being a line?
Huh?
Is it being a line?
Well, which way do we read?
Left or right?
And this is both sides of the origin from left to right. So that's number 2. That's the second reason. So you were along the right line, along the
You know
x
what
line.
I meant.
-2, huh?
You know what I meant.
Yep, -2 to 2. There's 4 reasons. That's 2. Give me another one. Why did I pick those numbers? I could have picked -10, -5, -0, 5, and 10. Why did I pick those numbers? They're smallest. The smallest numbers that you can pick. So keep it simple. What's the 4th reason? Well, I picked 5 because how many make up a line? 2 points make up a line. What if I mess up one of the points? The whole problem's wrong. Are you going to mess up 5 points? Chances are no. So the 5 points is not only to make sure that you've got the right math, but it also gets you ready for plotting nonlinear functions if you go on and take other algebra courses. So 5 points is it. Now the LADers, your lazy disorders, they don't want to do 5. Well, don't cry when you get the problem wrong. Okay? So, we take our handy-dandy formula right here, 3x, we put in parentheses wherever we plug and shove. And plug in -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. What's 3 times -2? What's -6 minus 2? -8. I don't know what's wrong with this. No, it's done that. All classes today has done that. And the reason I'm using this one is because somebody took the ones out of 236. Let's try this. So -8. There's right here. What's 3 times -1? And -3 minus 2? -5. -5. 3 times 0 minus 2. And at this point, you can see a pattern. -8, -5, -2. What are we doing each time? Adding 3. So what's -2 plus 3? 1. What's 3 minus 2? 1. And what's 1 plus 2? 3. And then you plot those points. I'm sorry, what? Oh, yeah, 4. Thank you. 1 plus 3 is 3. and then you plot those points. -2, -8. -2, -8. -1, -5. 0, -2. 1, +1. And 2, 4. Now, on your sheet, it says 90% of the time I'm going to use -2, +2. But what about the other 10% of the time? I'm going to use that 10% of the time, what? Multiples of the what? Denominator. So denominator means that there's a what in the problem? A fraction. So let's look at that.
You change that to black.
Yes, I thought it was black. It is black. As black as I can get it. Let's see. I think that's black. Let's try. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll make it a little bit bolder. How about that? Let's try this. I don't know if this will work or not. I want you to take a piece of notebook paper, turn it on its side, landscape, so that you know what that means. I want you to divide it up into however many, 10, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. Divide it up into at least 10 spaces. Okay? Now at the top of each one, I'm going to put a template of a problem. I'm going to put, the first one I'm going to say, y is equal to 1/2 x plus blank. Next one, I'm going to put y is equal to 1/3 x plus blank. And I'm going to keep on going up to as far as I can go. Y is equal to 1/4 x plus blank. Y is equal to 1/5 x plus blank. Y is equal to 1/6 x plus blank. And so on. Y is equal to 1/7 x plus blank. Y is equal to 1/8 x plus blank. Y is equal to 1/9 x plus blank. Y is equal to 1/10 x plus blank. Y is equal to 1/11 x plus blank. Now all of these have what in common? They all have a what in a fraction. And right below these, I want you to do your x and y column. Now this is kind of a drill and kind of a homework problem at the same time, because I have so many people. I told you before that one of the reasons people cannot do algebra is because they can't do what? Fractions. And one of the reasons that people can't do graphing is they can't do fractions. So this is a kind of a, this is what you do in case of homework problem slash drill. I'm gonna have to make the marking a little bit thinner to get everything in the table. So, now remember, when I picked -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2, I read from left to right, like we've been doing all of our lives. And the reason I say this is what y'all do. Students, this is what y'all do. I want you to graph y is equal to 4x minus 2. This is what y'all do. This is what y'all do. What's wrong with that? There's no system. There's no consistency. They're out of order. They're big and small. So, what's the word I'm looking for this? Starts with a C. What has no organization? Chaotic. Clutter? Yeah, chaotic. Your thinking is what? Chaotic. You're all over the place. That's another reason people can't grasp. They're not systematic. They're not consistent. So, if I am consistent with my thinking of graphing, and I read from left to right, and I've been reading from left to right for 45 years, then I'm going to read from left to right with the multiples of 2. So, what are they? -4, -2, 0, 2, and what? 4. Now, what's the multiples of 3? -6, -3, 0, 3, and 6. Now, right now, there's two kinds of people in the classroom. One's going -6, -3. Another one's going -6, -3. Some of you are thinking in terms of left to right, and some of you are going, y'all want to go back to 0, 2, 4, 6. Y'all want to start at 0. All right? You're going to have to think out of the box a little bit. So 4, -8, -4, 0, 4, and 8. -10, -5, 0, 5, and 10. Six, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're supposed to have a brain bubble here. Oh, that's 2 digits. I don't know how to do it. And you can go on forever. What would, if I had 3 over 22x plus 7? Be -44, -22, 0, 22, and 44. Now, watch what happens when you do that. Y is equal to 1/3 x minus 4. -6, -3, 0, 3, and 6. 1/3 times blank minus 4. 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 And we'll do 0 in our head. So -6 over 1. -3 over 1. 3 over 1. 6 over 1. Now, this is 1/3. What happens to the 1? They cancel, you get 1. What's 6 over 3? And what will happen to your fraction? it'll cancel out, and you're left with a whole number. And you owe somebody $2, you owe somebody $4, what's the outcome? You owe 6. And what's negative 3 over 3? Negative 1, Hubert. That's right, class. So you owe somebody $1, you owe somebody $4, you owe them $5. What's 0 times 1/3?
0.
0 minus 4 is, and now you're looking for a pattern. Negative 6, negative 5, negative 4, negative 3, and now tell me what's hard about graphing. It's not hard if you know how to do two things. If you know how to deal with fractions and you know how to plan around fractions. Now you're welcome to pick any numbers you want to make it more difficult. You're welcome to do it. Let's try nerd. I'm going to let y'all do this. Y is equal to negative 1/10 x plus 2. You try that one. And if you can't do it, just mark it down as what? Failure.
You read the problem out again.
No, I've already read it one time. You wasn't listening. Y is equal to negative 1/10 x plus 2. 1/10 x plus 2. Negative 1/10 x plus 2. Maybe that's what all Americans need to start eating with.
That might be very mad.
No, we need to weigh all our children.
Are they, is that like for everybody? They're gonna everybody do that?
They're going to start. That's
How-
what
How can they make that?
the USDA right now is trying to push that. Google it. You'll see, put USDA or just type in weighing and measuring preschool or daycare. See what you come up with. Just think about what that's going to do to the kids. Yep. And it's going to embarrass some of them. But it doesn't matter. So what numbers you gonna pick?
Negative 20,
Negative 20, negative 10, 0, 10, and 20. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say negative 1/10 times parentheses plus 2. Negative 1/10 times parentheses plus 2. Negative 1/10 times parentheses plus 2. And I tell students, they usually, after the third one, you can see the pattern. And you can see the pattern if they need to actually finish the calculation. So this one is going to be negative 20 over 1, negative 10 over 1, and 0. So, negative and negative make a, so this one's going to be positive. And then 20 divided by 10 is 2, and 2 plus 2 is 4. And negative 10 divided by negative 10 is 1 plus 2. And 0 plus 2 is, and it looks like we're adding what? Sorry. We're subtracting 1, or adding a negative 1. So 4, 3, 2, and how hard is that? I guarantee you, you don't have to raise your hand, but I guarantee you there's somebody in here that has never seen that before, to use multiples of the denominator when graphing with a fraction. I guarantee you don't have to raise your hand, because people do not teach that. They just teach you how to plug in numbers and put them out on the calculator.
Priority 1
Yeah.
message coming in on secured channel.
But this gives you a system, it gives you consistency, and it gives you easy math. 3 things. And that's how you do the chart plot method. Now, what's the second method? The second method is called the intercept method. Now, the intercept method is kind of one of those things that some people use and some people don't. You don't have to in this class. So let me go ahead and tell you this right now. In the homework, in the test, there are questions that say use the intercept. That's another thing. Back here, the chart plot method, you need to add this statement. With the chart plot method, I don't know if I included this on the sheet or not. Some of the words that you're going to see in the directions, graph using points. That's what the directions will look like. It'll say graph using coordinates. And it'll say graph using ordered pairs. So that's what your directions will look like on the test or on the homework. And if it says graph using points, graph using coordinates, or graph using ordered pairs, it's wanting you to do method 1. And if you try to do method 2 or method 3 with method 1, it's going to mark it wrong. And it will know how based on how you're plotting the points. Okay? So, is it possible to have the same line but get the problem wrong? Yes. I don't teach method 1, 2, and 3 so you can pick which method you want. I choose to teach method 1, 2, and 3 because you don't use a hammer to clean a window. Okay? Use a squeegee to clean a window, or a towel. You don't use a hammer. You don't use a screwdriver to drive a nail. You don't use the chart plot method when X and Y are on the same side. You don't use the intercept method when Y is by itself. Okay? So, there are different times that you use different methods. And the chart plot method is best used when Y is by itself. Or the directions say one of these 3 things. Now, if it just says graph, then you use the method you want. So, what is the intercept method? When do you use the intercept method? use the intercept method when y is not by itself. And it should say that on the top of your sheet. You use it when y is not by itself. And the directions will say graph using the intercepts. Or it will say graph using x and y intercept. It'll say one of those two. And if it says one of those two things, then you have to use method 2. And this is the method that people don't like to use. They like to say, oh well, I'll just solve for y and I'll do it that way. And the problem will be marked wrong because what are they looking for? They're looking for the intercepts. If you put anything in there besides the intercepts, it's going to be wrong. Okay? So don't go with that logic. Because what it's going to end up doing, the intercept method, can anybody tell me out of all three methods, what is the intercept method? It's the fastest. In other words, it's the one that you can do by just looking at the problem. Now, with the rose comes what? Flower with the rose. What comes with? Comes thorns. This one is the fastest, but it's also the easiest to make a careless what? Mistake. Nothing is free. All right? It is the fastest, but it's the easiest to have a careless mistake. So, how do you do it? Well, let's do a problem. Best way to show you. Here's the problem. 2x plus 3y is equal to 12. And the directions say graph using the intercepts. First thing you do is you draw a big table.
Secure channel.
Here's the table. Take up about half the page. Now, on the top of the left-hand side, you're going to put x intercept. And put a set of, let me show you what you see on the page. X intercept. And 0 is y. Over here, y intercept. And 0 for x. Is that true 100% of the time? Yes. And that's what you need to learn out of this section, is that whenever, and I'm going to put this in green, highlight, whenever you want the y-intercept, I don't care if it's in math, in science, in trig, in calculus, in economics, in business, anytime you have a graph with a y or an x-axis, if you want to know where your graph is crossing the y-axis, you plug in 0 for what? Anytime you want to find where your, anytime you want to find out where your line is crossing the x-axis, you plug in 0 for y. And that is true not only in any kind of subject, but it's also true if you have an x and a y axis. I don't care if it's economics. If you want to find where it's crossing the y, you plug in 0 for x. If you want to find out where it's crossing the x, you plug in 0 for y. And if you think about that, it makes sense. All right. So now I take my handy-dandy marker and I do this. Anybody notice how I put those in there? Anybody notice how I wrote those equations in there? Huh? They're the same, but do you notice where I put them? I lined them up where all you got to do is just drop that 0 into that spot. Now you can do it physically and actually do the math, or you can just do it with dry balls and say, what's going to happen to this term? It's going to cancel out, and the next equation is 2x is equal to what? And this one, what happens to the x term? And you get 3y is equal to what? And now you can just eyeball it. Yes?
So what you're saying is like if we did that for every single problem that was like this. I'm not saying every single problem but the one that you
If it said graph using the x-intercept.
Okay. It's always gonna go like that.
Yes, always.
It's always gonna result in like 2x equals 12 or well not 2, but you know.
Yeah, it's always going to end up with x, and you take that x, and what do you do with it? Put it right there.
So easy.
Huh? And divide by 3. Y is equal to what? And that's 4. It is. But, how many points does it take to make a line? How many screw it up? You mess up one of these, whole problem's gone. So you gotta be careful. And if you got a fraction in it, there's nothing you can do. Just make it easier. You got to deal with the fraction. Can't clear it or anything like that. And now you just plot those 2 points. Now, I'm gonna tell y'all something, and this is where, remember me telling you whenever there's an X, you put in parentheses, and there'll be some people that don't need the parentheses? Well, did you notice what I did when I started this problem? Before I put this, comma, 0, what did I put above it? I put x-intercept, and over here I put what? Why do you think I did that? Because at the end of the problem, you're going to do the math right, but you're going to what? Plot the wrong points. You're going to plot it on the wrong axis. So that's why I put x-intercept right here and y-intercept right here, so you don't plot this point on the y-axis and plot this on the x-axis, which some of you will do. And usually it's the ones that don't need to put x-intercept here and y-intercept here. Those are usually the ones that don't have to do parentheses either. Same type of personality. Okay? So, 6 and 0. My x-intercept is 6 and 0. Notice, I still put that up there. I'm not doing that for your benefit. I'm doing it so I don't put on the wrong one. And the other one is 0, comma what? 4. So this one goes on the x-axis. And this one goes on the y-axis. And your line goes like that. I was trying there. All right, you try that one. Negative 2x plus 4y is equal to 8. Negative 2x plus 4y is equal to 8. gonna draw a table. X-intercept, 0 for y. Y-intercept, 0 for x. And then over here, I'm going to say negative 2x plus 4y is equal to 8. Negative 2x plus 4y is equal to 8. Now, let's say you don't want to eyeball it like I did. You have to actually plug and chug it. Negative 2x plus 4 times 0 is equal to 8. And negative 2x plus 0 is equal to 8. And negative 2x plus 0 is negative 2x. And x is equal to what? Negative 4. Negative 2 times 0 plus 4y is equal to 8. 0 plus 4y is equal to 8. Y is equal to what? So negative 4 and 0 is the x-intercept. 2 and 0 is your y-intercept. Something like that. And the good thing about these, you can make them up all day long. Now there will be some with fractions. And that doesn't mean anything. It just means that either you've done something wrong or it has a fraction in it. But that could happen here too. I could have done something wrong and I'm supposed to get a negative 2 instead of negative 4. How do you check it? Well, the best way to check it is to pick, and I'll show you. To check, and I don't know if I put this on y'all's sheet. To check method 2. Pick x is equal to 1. Why did I say pick x is equal to 1? Well, I can't pick x is equal to 0 because what? I've already used it. Where? Y-intercept. That's right. So what's the only other number that's easier than 0 to deal with? 1. So I pick 1. And my equation, let me get my equation. Negative 2x plus 4y is equal to 8. Negative 2x and notice what I do with my problem. I lined it up with x is equal to what? Plug it in. And what's negative 2 times 1? And what I do with that 2? That'd be a plus 2. And 4y is equal to what? 10. Y is equal to 10 divided by 4, which is equal to what? 5 over 2. So what is my y? 5 halves, which that's 1 and 2.5. So you go back to your handy dandy graph, which that's why graphing paper is so important, because you can't check method 2 unless you have graphing paper because it's so accurate. You got to check it real close. So you go back to your handy dandy, and 1 is going to be 2.5. Well, there's 2, so 2.5 will be right in there. So let's check. And that's how you do a check. Well, what if you can't choose x is equal to 1? Well, choose x is equal to 2, or x is equal to 500, whatever you want to pick. And that's how you do a check. and that's method 2. And then there's method 3. Method 3 is called building a line. I tell students there's two type problems you need to use this one with. One is when y is by itself. Well, method 1 does that too. Yeah, but the second one is where you really use it. And that's when m is equal to a fraction. That's the best time to use this type of method. Now, when will the directions tell you to use this method? The directions will tell you when it says graph using the slope and y-intercept. That's what it'll say. It's not going to say anything else. It might say graph using the intercept and the slope. It might switch those around, but that's it. That's all it's going to say. All right? Now, people love this method. Do you know, does anybody know why? They love this method because it really doesn't involve any calculations. In other words, there's no math. You just have to extract some information, plot the point, and draw the line. There is no calculator, just like we did in the first and the second. And this is the ones teachers love to teach in high school. Why? Because there's no what? No calculator involved. Well, you have people that can't because they don't teach you critical thinking. They just teach you how to blur out the answer. I'm not saying all teachers. All right, so it doesn't involve any calculation. So all you have to do is extract the material. Extract the information. What does extract mean? Pull out. Extract info from y is equal to mx plus b. Now we've already talked about this last class before the break. We talked about what m is, what x is, and what b is. So you have to go back to that sheet it's got a lot of highlights on it. Remember that sheet? So let's do a problem. And here's an example. Y is equal to 2x plus 3. There's our example. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite it. You don't have to do this. Why did I put 2 over 1? Because 2 is a whole number. And what is the slope? Vertical over what? Horizontal. So you have to have 2 numbers here. And it's a whole number, you just put it over 1. If it's a fraction, you leave it alone, and that's your vertical over your horizontal. Now I'm going to extract the information right here. A, B, and C. A, B, and C. And I'm going to highlight A. I'm going to highlight it. And I'm going to highlight 3. Right there. Because A is our y-intercept. I'm not going to write that down somewhere. Y-intercept. Now, some of you go back to your handy-dandy sheet that we went over last time. And what is the y-intercept in this problem? Huh? 3. That's why I highlighted it. simulate it, all I did is pull it out. B. B is going to be yellow. B is right here and right there. B is the direction of my slope. Now, before you make this confusing, it's not. Just tell me how many sides of the hill are there. What sides are there? How many sides? 2? What are they?
Positive and negative.
Up, hill, and downhill. Is there anything else? No. Depends on which way you're looking. If you stand on top of the hill, which way are you going to be going? Downhill. If you're standing at the bottom of the hill, which way are you going to be going? Okay. Let's don't make that complicated. I'm going to put a little note beside this. I'm going to say positive is left to right, up, and negative is left to right, what? Down. So, this 2 right here, is it positive or negative? It's positive. If nothing's there, it is assumed to be positive 1 or positive. So positive means left to right, up. And then the last thing, I'm going to highlight it, blue. And that's that right there, and that's 2 over what? 2 over 1, which is our vertical over our horizontal. And that's it. You see why people like it? People like it because you don't have to calculate anything. All you have to do is look at the problem and extract the coordinates that you need and what the line is doing. Okay, so the next page are 0, comma 3, is that right? And it's positive, meaning left to right, up, and 2 over what? 1. So there's A, B, and C. And on your sheet, what does it say we do first? Plot what? Plot the y-intercept. The y-intercept always goes on the y-axis. So there's our y-intercept. And let's go ahead and highlight that green. And I'll throw it out with green. Do it again. And that's that spot. Now I'm going to take my trace line, and that's what this represents right here. This represents what I call a trace line. Right there. So I'm going to take my handy-dandy strip line maker, and I'm going to make it real thin, and I'm going to make it gray. Alright, now I'm not doing this to irritation, Mr. Wilford. I'm doing it because I want the line to be real light. You would take your pencil and just kind of brush left to right up or left to right down. You don't want to mash it hard or anything like that. So I'm just take my pen and do that. Notice, did I make it go through the point? No. Did I make it go a certain steepness? No. I can move it wherever I want to. It's not a big deal. You can place it wherever you want to. See? I can put it above the line. I can put it below the line. I can rotate it. If I want to rotate it, I can rotate it like that. Just so long as it's going left to right, what? Up. How do you know? Well, which way do we read? So you put your car right there. What does that car do?
Went up.
Simple as that. Now, if you want to make it more complicated, we can make it more complicated. It's amazing what left to right will do and what a little car will do. All right, now you just plot the points. So I'm going to take my, oh wait a minute, that's gray. I think we called that yeller. And that's this. And I'll just kind of drop this in like that. So that's my trace line. All right, 2/1. 2/1. Well, that's my, I'm going to take my, since that's blue, this is blue right here, I'm going to take a blue dot maker. And 2 is vertical, so I'm going to go down. 1, 2. Where's my trace line? Is my trace line over here, or is my trace line over here? It's over here, right? So I'm going to go 1 over. 1, 2, 1 over. 1, 2, 1 over. Let's say you don't want to go up. Let's say you want to go down. Or don't say you don't want to go up. 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's how you draw. Now, of course, it does help to have graphics. Now, how many points do you have? You put 100 on there if you want to. I would go with 3 or 4, but I think your homework only wants 2. Better make sure they're right. And that's how you do it. Now, usually there's not a problem as long as the slope is what? Positive. You throw a negative in there, and everybody goes ballistic. What time is it? 4, 3 times? What time's class over? Okay, that's 5 minutes. All right, I'm going to take the roll, and I want you to do the following. Y is equal to negative 4/3 x minus 2. All right, extract, just throw stuff down, just throw it at me.
Thank you.
All right, do that right quick, and I'll call the roll. All right, Brown, Carey, Dawson, Charles, Edwards, Elliott, Ms. Grubbs is here, Lee Croy, Littman, Pardue is here, Queen is here, Rochester, Roebuck, Satterfield, Shaw, both my Smiths are here. Vernon, Whitfield, Williford's here, and Wright. Miss Wright, I don't think she's here today. All right, so let's do this one. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my handy dandy graph. And I'm going to take my -0, -2. I'll highlight it yellow. And my yellow marker, 0, -2, 1, 2. There's my yellow marker. And then my trace line is going to be left to right what? Left to right down. There it is, left to right down, and that is our green
Priority
marker.
1 message
or
coming
vice
in on
versa.
secured channel.
That's that right there, left to right down, and then 4/3. So let's say I want to go up, because most people think you got to go down because it's a negative. That's not right. You go up 4, 1, 2. I'm sorry. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's my trace line? Is it over here or is it over here? It's over there. So you go over 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's my trace line? Over here. 2, 3. Yep, you get the point. That's why you need a graph paper. That's why you need graph paper when you do any of these methods, really. And that's how you do method 3. Now, what do I want y'all to do? I want y'all to do the homework for 6.7, and I want you to send me questions, and that's all we're going to do. Whatever day. Wednesday, that's what I want you to do, is go over homework questions, okay? Y'all have a good day, and I'm glad y'all got to see me today. Somebody hit my button for me, please. Could you do that, Dana, please?